Boys and girls, let's see. Oh, what is this? Oh, the weather report for Thursday, June 3rd, 2021. 2021. I got a wonderful book in the mail the other day, Days of Praise from Answers in Genesis. And I thought, perhaps we should read from this every day. It's got some really interesting things about whom shall I fear and I am. And it's like I don't know, let's see if I can show it here.
Yeah, they're trying to hook into that old people's trust money. So that when they die, they'll bequeath it to them. So they just take care and soothe their fear of a lingering death.
Yeah.
Then what we should do too is we should read from it, Speed, right? And then we should fight over the interpretation of it.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a good idea, too.
The interesting thing is right in the middle of it here is this wonderful little pull-out envelope where you can, let's see, plan to giving. It is plan to giving for wills, trusts, estate planning, gift annuity.
Whoa, what did I just say? What did I just say and what did I predict?
What do we got?
That is marketed towards people's trust.
Because yeah.
They're old, they have money, and they fear a lingering long death.
Yeah, and
there's a special package you can sign up with the Ark Encounter. I think if you're a lifetime member or something, where you fucking give your home to Ken Ham when you die.
Oh, wow.
and your estate instead of your children.
Yeah, and I guess
Ken Ham has done this.
They have seminars that tell you how to put them in your will and how to use your trust and estate planning and everything to help them out.
Yeah, like fuck your kids.
Yeah.
Give Ken Ham your money.
This is Institute for Creation Research, not AIG. It's a different one.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they both do that. It's like good word, brother. Good word.
Yep. I don't know. And they got some really interesting thing. No complaints about how not to complain when your life is shit or you're working for some corporation and they're making all the money and you're not. How to be humble. Maybe that's why this fits in so well with the ultra-right conservative platform, is that you're supposed to be meek and just work your ass off, and not complain. Well, somebody else makes all the damn money. I don't know. Anyway, yep. Well, you get these. I get these things. I think I get Answers in Genesis once a week, and then I get these things every now and then. So they're pretty cool. I really appreciate the messages that they send us. It's wonderful. So what do we got?
Well, I got some good news. I got my second vaccination today, so I am fully vaccinated.
Awesome.
There's a lot of second vaxxers out there today.
Yep.
Yeah, me too. I've had mine for a few weeks now, but yeah, that's good.
Yep.
Yeah, MN COVID. Our COVID cases yesterday were, I think we had 119, and we were doing 9,000 last November. So that's 1/90th of what we used to have. So I wonder if the vaccine is working.
Yeah.
Nah.
I'm just noticing people are walking around with no mask too. That's starting to happen too. So.
Yep, at the Mall of America, about half the people were unmasked.
Yeah.
Which is, well, I don't know. Those of us that are vaccinated, do we really give a shit about those that aren't? I'm not sure if I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, as long as...
yeah, because you don't want those people to get infected because they could come in contact with an elderly person or a child that has an immune system deficiency who can't get
Yep.
vaccinated and
Yeah.
put them at risk. But even if you have both vaccines, you still should wear your mask, because being vaccinated, makes it like 90% more likely that you won't get COVID. But technically, there, is still a small percentage chance that you can get it. It's rare, but it does happen. So it's better safe than sorry,
Yeah, we heard from some doctor yesterday. Was that one of you guys telling me, or was that my son that said that? I don't know. We had 10 deaths yesterday, but the people that are coming in now that are really sick, that are ending up hospitalized, are unvaccinated. And he said that an amazing number of them absolutely refuse to believe that they have COVID, even though they're dying of it. They're in the hospital, they can't breathe, they're dying of COVID, and they're like, no, this is the flu. It's a conspiracy. And like,
wow,
dude, you're dying. You're
right?
pretty weird stuff. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
want to say
amazing.
they deserve to die, but
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty bad. It's amazing how people can be that way, right?
Denial. Yeah.
Yeah. How the hell can you be that bad?
It ain't just a river in Egypt.
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I'm being stabbed to death right now. Okay, yeah, I'm bleeding to death. A likely story,
And do you blame that on the internet? A lot of that, like people just get such shitty information off
Yes.
the internet and become that way, just so conspiracy
Alex
theorists.
Jones.
Yeah,
There's
Alex
something
Jones,
to do.
Kent
There's
Hovind.
something to do with rebellion. Like there's a certain built-in rebellion toward the government, toward science, toward establishments, toward society as a whole. So you have that attitude to begin with, and then you pick your news sources to fortify that. So
Right.
you will go to certain sources,
right.
and then
Yep.
and then they sound so reasonable. They just build it right up. And
Right. Yep. Yep.
where'd AJ go? AJ went, and now he's
There he-
back.
Yep.
You weren't gone long.
Yeah,
Yep.
I like
for
snakes.
some reason, there's people who just don't want to follow the rules. I'm a rule follower. I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I go with the consensus in spite of what Dessel says, that if we go with the consensus, that it's going to bring back eugenics. I think that was his argument.
Yeah, well, the reason that he picked eugenics is because his position is so weak that he has to do a fallacy, which is an appeal to emotion. He has to pick an argument where his topic is a controversial subject, and you have an emotional, visceral reaction when you hear the term eugenics. So
Right.
he didn't pick that on accident.
Then he accused me of of having an emotional reaction to it. It's like,
Yeah, which was his intention.
yeah, but my point to him was what science did they get wrong in the eugenics thing?
I can't wrap my head around people who argue against scientific consensus being the more likely way to find out the truth. I just don't get that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like, okay, what is your alternative?
Let's see here.
And he kept doing this shit that annoys me, which is what Ken Hovind does. He's where he says, "Oh, well, that's just a popular majority opinion." It's like, no, fuckhead, it's the majority opinion of the experts in the relevant fields. Like, it's such a huge difference between just a bunch of people agree on this shit.
It's more than that though too. I mean, don't forget the peer review is a lot of these people that are doing the reviews will take the conclusion or whatever whatever they're reviewing and repeat the experiments possibly and try to get the same results. So now they've done it twice, they got the same results, and now they confirm, okay, I got the same results you did. So it's that added on to it too. So maybe not in all, certainly not in all cases, but definitely that's part of it.
My bad. Yeah, this is what I had to talk about in my new video, because the guy Braxton Hunter, he started talking about, oh, what would evidence of God be? And then at the end he says, oh, because I know this is a conversation stopper, we can take repeatable experimentation off the table since it's not always necessary in science. And I was like, whoa, 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 what are you talking about? It's absolutely necessary to the scientific method. And I said, don't try and, slip repeatable experiments off of the requirement just to make your God claim easier to prove. I see what you're doing, because he was trying to say what would evidence of God look like, and then he tried to take that because you can't really use a scientific method to prove God exists.
Should we look at your video or should we look at his video?
Why don't we look at his video so you guys aren't tainted with my answers and people on the panel can give their own answers.
Okay.
It's the last link in the private chat.
Your screen. And the name of the site is Trinity Radio is what he calls himself. So
yeah,
I gotta make some adjustments here to my audio setup.
I think that makes more sense, right? Like watching the original videos so you guys can just give your own answers to the questions too.
Yeah, it's only 7 minutes long, so
yeah.
How long is your response? 13?
Yeah, like 15 minutes.
Is there a rule? Is there some sort of a rule about that? That responses have to be twice as long as the original?
I think they just end up that way,
Excuse me,
Erica,
I need to
Erica makes 3-hour videos responding to creationists.
Scott,
I need to inject an administrative thing here. What month is it there, Speed?
Over here?
Yeah, up in Minnesota. What month is it?
Minnesota, it's June.
Okay, and so why did you write in the description May 3rd?
You guys are just so fucking picky. You're so picky. You just pick on me all the time.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Atheist Junior, but Speed has told me to interrupt him for any administrative things going on. I mean, I could have texted him. I could have texted him, but it's just too delightful to point out his errors live on air.
Yeah, whatever. I fixed it. Okay. Trinity Radio. Where's Mr. Trinity Radio? We got a couple of things to go over. If Orge shows up or Wilford, I want to talk about the Himalayan mountains and why they aren't 150 miles high. Because Standing for Truth did a thing on mountain building yesterday.
Oh, Orge's here.
Is he?
Yeah.
Building a mountain? Is that a thing Christians get into?
Orge, you got some explaining to do. The Himalayas should be 150 miles high because George Bond did a calculation about how many centimeters are growing every year. And if you extrapolate, like they're currently growing at a rate of 10 kilometers per million years. And they formed like 30 to 50 million years ago. So anyway, but so
10
we'll
kilometers,
do this.
10 kilometers?
What?
10 kilometers per million years?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which means that something slowed down and they believe that the European continent is stretching or something. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, or should we handle that first?
Yeah, George is right up there with Neffy.
Is he?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Foreskin.
Foreskin?
Reverse foreskin.
Reverse foreskin. Oh, go forward.
Yes.
Orge, you going to be with us for a while?
I could probably do about an hour or so, yeah.
Okay, so Did you watch Standing for Truth's geology videos? Any of them?
I put it in my fodder list to take a look at and maybe download for a response, but I haven't watched it yet. No.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been, end of the year, so I'm super busy with finals and stuff.
Okay.
Ox has brought up a really interesting point, and I do remember watching an unrelated video about, I forget the subject, but they did comment on all the runoff that comes from that mountain range, that mountain system into the ocean, and so it is kind of a war between erosion and growth.
Yep.
Very true. Very true.
Oh, and then they got this old salty curmudgeonly geologist he's got Play-Doh and he's got crackers, and he keeps crunching the crackers up to show that it is impossible for rocks to deform without cracking up into small pieces. Yeah. Anyway, so we just want to talk about those things. And they keep putting that out over and over and over again. And I don't know if they've ever actually looked at a book. But, okay. So, should we play this thing?
Yes.
Yeah, do whatever you want to do. I'll chime in as needed, so.
Okay.
The worldview discussions space can be so combative. And when atheists and Christians come up with lists of questions that they don't think the other side can answer, those questions usually aren't genuine. I've never made a list like that, although I've responded to some. Here, I hope my atheist interlocutors will consider these questions deeply without giving glib answers. These aren't meant to be gotcha questions, though I'm not asking for no reason. I expect you will have answers, and I want to hear what the most sincere among you have to say. With that, here are my 10 questions for atheists. What facts about reality that you and I agree are real facts about the way the world is, does your worldview account for, but my Christianity doesn't account for, or at least doesn't account for well? And for those of you that would point out atheism isn't a worldview, I'm talking about your worldview that includes atheism. I can't think of any. Christianity accounts for evil, suffering, the existence of other religions, including supernatural events in those other religions, science, and differences among different denominations of Christianity. But I can think of many things that the most common worldviews that include atheism don't answer as well as I think Christianity does. Like universal supernatural claims, universal religious experiences, free will, morality, near-death experiences, beauty, the rapid expansion of the early church, the events surrounding the life and death of Jesus of Nazareth, and our shared longing for purpose and meaning. So
atheism is not supposed to explain that.
Do you want to pause it after each point, maybe? Would that be a good idea?
Yep.
After each question, I think.
Was that the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one question.
That was one question.
Atheism is not supposed to explain all those things. I don't know. I'm hesitant to insult him. But
I think when he says atheism in the phrasing of the question, he's trying to figure out the best single word to describe the opposition, So I think it's okay to grant him saying atheism for the conversation.
He's saying your individual worldview, but I still don't see why mine has. Why would it explain anything about Jesus? I don't care about Jesus.
Well, no, it can explain. That's the point, though, right? Atheism can explain Jesus as a myth. But not atheism. A dude that got... Well, again, but we can't really have the conversation he's wanting to have if you have to fight over the term atheism, right? Can't you just grant that for the conversation?
No.
Well, for the sake of conversation, maybe, but he's muddying the waters with that. Like, what he didn't define what atheism even is. And, Lord knows there's too many people having that discussion already, so we don't need to get into that. But
he just listed 20 topics 10 topics that a whole lot of other sciences and a lot of other types of information can answer, and he's asking atheists to answer based on our worldview. And I think that's where he went wrong.
He said Christianity accounts for science, but that's not true, because if the Bible told us about science, then it wouldn't have given us an incorrect view of how the Earth is and how the universe is.
Well, sorry, I think what he meant to say is that a lot of scientists throughout history were Christian or religious. That was maybe, I'm not sure, but that's probably what his point was.
He said his Christian worldview can account for science.
Yeah, and I'm saying his Christian worldview would also include scientists, both past and present, who were believers and Christians.
Yeah, and
I know he didn't say that, but that's the consequence, the implication of that.
Any worldview that is just making shit up can explain anything by making shit up.
Right, but what it can't do is predict things.
I mean, I could make a joke right now at your expense, but I'm not immutable.
Yeah,
you're on thin ice. You're on.
This question is so badly worded. I feel like we should just go to the next one.
For one thing, Midnight, I couldn't find any of your email address. No matter what I usually type in, I just type in A, and it comes up as Athena. And apparently, Google has started to use either they have blocked you for some reason, or they've started to use a new albino font, which is just white on white.
I honestly, that's a false dichotomy.
So anyway, send me a new email to my real name account so that for some reason you don't come up anymore. It's like you're invisible.
I mean, all I literally did was change my name on StreamYards. What the fuck?
I don't know. I'm not sure what happened. Okay, so can we just get rid of that question because that's too broad a question?
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, if you want that, he asked like what, as you said, 20 questions at once, and that's I can say yes in the same way he said yes, and now on the same footing.
Well, he basically said atheism doesn't explain life, the universe, and everything, and Christianity does. That was his claim. I think we can just discount that.
I just sent you. Hold on. Doing that now. Here we go. Empty email with the subject test.
I don't think anybody cares, Midnight, except me.
I know. I'm just speaking out loud. Sorry.
Okay. Number
if
two.
Your definition of atheism is merely that it's a lack of belief in God, and you're just waiting to be convinced. But then you speak of him as though he's in some way synonymous with Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, or fairies. Doesn't that at least send the message to your listeners that you actually believe that there is no God? After all, these are entities and beings that you likely believe do not exist. And if your response is that you merely lack a belief in Santa Claus and don't actively believe that he does not exist, doesn't that sound a little disingenuous, honestly?
Okay.
Okay, this is just a functional language, right? It's saying if you're saying you lack of belief, you basically say that you don't see any convincing evidence to make you believe that there is a God. I mean, I guess you could say that you believe there is no God based on lack of evidence. I don't know. Language is weird. But the way he was framing that, you know what I mean? I hear the whole lack of belief thing too often, and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever.
I really like that he brought up Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny because I have exactly the same posture toward Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny as I do against the Christian God. I feel exactly the same way about them. So do I have to? Am I obligated to justify my disbelief in the Easter Bunny?
I mean, yes, because it's like, oh, hey, the Easter Bunny doesn't exist because giant rabbits, going around hiding eggs don't exist. Okay, there you go. You justified it.
Yeah, but why?
I agree. People that believe in the Easter Bunny.
It is a weird argument he's making where he's like, you say you don't believe in God and you say you don't believe in the Easter Bunny. And that's bad. Like, how exactly is saying I don't believe in God, like I don't believe in the Easter Bunny, a bad argument?
I don't know.
I don't get it either. He's not. I get it's just a quick top 10, but he's not like giving me a reason to think his arguments are good. Right. He's just.
But it's the fact that you're making that comparison. That's what they hate. That's why he's.
He just offered it to us. He gave it to us.
Right. But they hate it. So, and he's just pointing that out, trying to say that it's stupid.
He's trying to beat us to it.
Well, I mean, if you hate it, you shouldn't point it out, right? Now, now people are gonna be focusing on that.
Anyway, thank you. Because he just made my point for me just stunningly. That's all.
By the way, Speed, why did you move me to the bottom almost?
I didn't move you anywhere.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't.
You're not on the bottom position I am.
Well, kind of bottom, but this doesn't matter.
Who cares?
You know, we have a great word for that. It's called next to the last, or second from the bottom.
I hate that lactheism crap when, they make a big deal out of that. And, if you want to have an honest, decent conversation, instead of worrying about the labels and all that, just ask the person, where do you stand? And then have the conversation from there. So they whine and cry about that a lot too.
Hey, Scott.
He's defining my position, which isn't even how I define my own position.
I'm here.
Responding to that as a straw man argument.
Scott, I can't move people anymore because I have that script running.
Okay, so who do you want moved?
Oh, move Midnight. Oh, he's already back up. Okay.
Yeah,
you can move. Yeah, you can put me on the bottom with you. So, okay.
I want to keep somebody between me and you, if that's okay.
Wow, Scott. Okay.
We'll have to talk about this after in private.
Okay, then I'll move you down. I don't want to have to talk to you.
I didn't realize that our relationship had changed. So what does Immutable want a reward for? I saw something on the screen.
No, refund, not reward.
A refund for?
Yeah, because he thought APS would give you all the answers, but it was a play on words on your name.
Oh, okay.
He was just giving you shit.
Got it. Okay, so question number 3.
Yep.
When atheism becomes a part of someone's worldview, they typically change their positions on other issues like abortion, sexual morality, and a number of other things. I actually have several videos of well-known atheists saying that there's nothing wrong with prostitution, that they hope their children don't save themselves until marriage, and that sex workers should be put up on a pedestal no different than the military. I didn't use those here because I didn't want to seem combative to individuals, specifically the individuals who made those statements. But even if you didn't become an atheist just so you could sin, and I believe you, do you at least understand why those moves could send that message to people who might say that to you?
Citation needed.
Well, I think all of those things he listed are some of the reasons that people turn away from certain churches. I don't know. Because they've now got a different view on these things.
I don't believe a damn word of it.
Yeah, our culture is changing. And...
yeah, exactly to his point. Like, he's saying these things like they are obviously bad, and atheists now have the bad opinion. Like, why is having a view on homosexuality not being evil the wrong opinion? Like, you're presupposing that you're correct for the question. The question doesn't exist unless you presuppose that you're correct.
Well, I'm sorry, but if you make these claims that well-known atheists said this shit, presumably on public YouTube videos, and you're not going to link the videos or at least quote what they said, then I can just throw out any of those claims. I don't believe a word of it. I mean, holding sex workers up as high as the military, what does that even mean?
I think he's talking about Matt Dillahunty, which I don't think he's ever done that, so that's like a straw man on this guy's part. I mean, because I have heard Dillahunty talk about how sex worker, being a sex worker is valid, which it is. You know what I mean? It's the world's oldest profession.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, sex work is valid, but not sex trafficking.
Right. Well, you would eliminate a lot of human trafficking if you decriminalize sex work.
Exactly. Control the demand.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there would still be sex trafficking if you decriminalize it, because that's just a thing that's always going to happen. But
right. But it would. It would be highly reduced.
Yeah, but the thing is now, okay, for like abortion. So the view that preventing abortion is basically impinging on the woman that is carrying the child as a parasite, right? So you would have to first have the opinion that all souls aren't created at conception before you came to that position. So how would that be? What he's basically saying is that just because I want women to be able to have abortions up to the second trimester or whatever it is, then I have to abandon my belief in God. I think it's the other way around. I think it's just
his claim is totally unsubstantiated.
Yeah. So that one doesn't make any sense. So
Next.
And this thing about
the question was also, don't you see how they might come to that conclusion? How a Christian might come to the conclusion that you want to sin? And my response would be, yes, I do, but that's just an excuse to be mad about me changing my mind and not being part of your little circle anymore.
Okay, what sins did he list?
I hate to sort of repeat what I said in my video about this, but I can't help it if people are dumb enough to misinterpret my words to think that people become atheists so they can sin. Because if you want to sin, you should just remain a Christian, and then you could just ask God to forgive you. But the one thing that God will not forgive you for is apostasy. That's the one thing that pisses him off enough to where he'll send you to hell. So this argument makes no sense at all. It's completely backwards.
Yep. Yeah, every time they say you just want to sin, I always think, what the hell sins are they talking about? For the average human being, I think the only thing is maybe sex out of marriage, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's what they mean, typically, sex out of marriage. Because
later.
I didn't become an atheist so I could drive, 85 in a 70 zone, which in Texas is essentially creating, it's the speed limit in Texas.
I became an atheist because I wanted to eat milk with meat. I wanted to have cheese pizza.
I became an atheist because that's how I was.
That's why I became an atheist. I wanted a cotton silk blend for my underwear. That's why I did it.
Okay. I wanted to eat babies.
I became an atheist because that's how I was always an atheist. I don't know, I just never believed.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
That's me too. There's a lot of us. It's amazing. We should form a club. Because
have a live stream, maybe.
If you never believed when you listen to Christians, it's almost like listening to kids talk about Santa and the Easter Bunny. I mean, it's just, it really does kind of screw us up, because we're listening to people talk about this mythical system, and it strikes us the very same way that, and I know some of you here were believers, and I don't want to piss you off, but it's like, I guess if you were raised into it and you never got inputs from anywhere else, it might seem plausible, but it's kind of implausible, this whole thing.
Yeah. I'm in that club of never being a believer, and like you said, all of us seem to have that. Like, it's hard to comprehend the sin thing, right? You can't even get it, because
that doesn't make us smarter than atheists who came to atheism after being Christians for a long time. I just want to make that clear,
Yeah,
but it's also, like I said, it's hard to comprehend the whole sin thing, because
I agree.
It doesn't even come into thought. You don't even think about it. So
I'm glad that I don't have to deal with actually having believed in hell, because I know that can be really difficult for people to get over.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
But I mean, we deal with moral questions every day. So in a sense, we're dealing with what they call sin. But then when they say, I just want to sin, I'm thinking, what the hell sin am I planning on committing that you're worried about? I don't get it. It's like, what are you concerned? And then when I find out it's like, it's something like condoning the gay couple next door, or condoning some stranger getting an abortion, or, having some political view. It's like, I don't think is that sinning? I don't know.
I mean, sinning is like what? Just basically behaving bad, right? Yeah, I mean, you can call it that, right?
No, it's pissing off God. Then he just pissed me off God.
But it's like, I mean, everybody does bad things. You know, everybody behaves badly or does something wrong in their life, right? So when you do something like that, it never crossed my mind, oh my God, I'm going to go to hell. The only thing I thought of was, oh, am I going to get arrested, or am I going to get in trouble by my parents? Am I going to, whatever, or am I going to break something, or what? I never ever crossed my mind as I'm going to go to hell ever.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it stupid for me, because it just never crossed my mind ever.
Well, how about John Maddox using the F word, basically taking sex in vain by dropping the fuck word on Praise and Smokey.
Don't you mean the C word?
He did that too, I guess. But yeah. It's Trace. He's not connected yet. Okay, we'll go on to the next one.
Yep.
If it's a lack of belief sort of atheism, what is it? Is it 50-50, 60-40, 75-25? And at what point do you feel disingenuous saying that you merely lack a belief, as opposed to leaning towards, I believe that God does not exist?
What the hell? I thought he covered that
already. Talking point.
Well, I thought he covered that.
Yep. I don't get the question.
Yeah, where was the question in that?
Some of his questions are really badly formed.
Yeah.
I think that's the point. I think that's the point, Scott.
Yeah, these questions aren't for atheists. They're for his flock to agree with him and talk about how smart Christians are for believing in God. That's what this whole video is really about.
I mean, accusing other people of being disingenuous. I mean, the irony.
Yeah, that bothers me the most, is when they do that, because they, everything they do, it's, when they make comments about knowing God and knowing what God wants and all these things that, you can't possibly know. How disingenuous is that, So
who let Dessel Drace into our science cult?
It must have been you. Or did I? I don't know.
Oh God, he's an apostate. He doesn't believe. He's not in our cult. I don't know, I might have to ban him. Anyway, okay, let's go on to the next question, because that one didn't make any sense, and that was sort of a repeat of what he was already talking about. He's got a real problem with lack-theists.
But I want you to struggle to be as sincere with yourself as you can right now. Doesn't it bother you a little bit that when we come to talk about the origins of the universe, and if there's a multiverse, the origin of that too, that the only real options you've got besides God is a past infinite universe, which is impossible, or the universe coming to exist uncaused out of nothing, or something far less clear than even those? It seems that for any worldview that includes atheism, there's a massive blind spot when it comes to the origin of the universe. And all the attempts to try and circumvent that problem seem desperate and at least far less likely than theism. My question isn't just what do you typically say about this, because I'm well aware of the responses. My question is simply this: when you step away from the debate mode that it's so easy for us all to get into online, doesn't this issue destabilize you a little bit? It seems to fit really poorly with any worldview that includes atheism.
He's pretty ignorant of physics.
Destabilize? Like, am I going to explode?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, to answer the question, no. Next.
Yeah. No, it doesn't destabilize me. We could the universe has been here forever, God's been here forever, or something else.
If I don't have an answer for it, I can just make shit up. That's better.
I'd like him to substantiate that the universe being eternal is impossible.
Well, it's the domino thing, because if the first domino fell an infinite amount of time ago, then it could never get here, is what it is, which is just like the most ignorant
the Zenon's paradox thing. So
it's the most ignorant understanding of space-time.
If the first Domino's pizza took longer than 30 minutes to deliver, does that mean that the next one will also take longer?
The next one's free. The next one's free. That's how that analogy.
Okay. I got
if you get 50 points, you can get a free pizza.
Yeah,
but that's neither here nor there. But I
guess big pepperoni.
My issue with this question is the same issue with all the other questions. He's presupposing everything he says is true, and I'm just wrong. And he's also not accepting the possibility that he should be asking better questions. Like he's pulling out Darth Dawkins, where I've thought about this for 5 minutes. It's a perfect question. If you can't answer this, I've disproven the entire world. Like,
well, he thinks his position is the default position, and it's not.
Yeah, and you can't have a conversation with someone if you're not at least willing to move a little bit, Then you're just preaching.
Well, what he's presupposing is that he knows enough about physics to have an opinion about any of that, which is ridiculous.
Well, he can have an opinion on it, but he can't tell me my opinion, right? Yeah. If I'm not allowed to have my own opinion, well, what the fuck is the point of this?
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next question.
Of the arguments for God's existence, is there one that to you seems more interesting than the rest? Is there one that for you actually does weigh in favor of theism? Which one?
Nope. Nope. That was easy.
You gotta admit that was a legit question, though. That was his first.
That was his briefest and most straightforward question so far.
Yeah.
Yep. And the answer is no.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
I can't think of a single argument.
I'll be the outlier here and say I still do have an issue with consciousness. I have no idea how it would actually work. And if there is a thing that to me points towards theism, I think consciousness might be my best argument in that way.
Oh shit, guys! Andrew Cumming just figured out that transitional forms don't exist. Who told him?
In the chat.
Huh? Who told him?
If I had to pick one, I guess I would say the Kalam is like slightly better, but maybe like a 0.1 instead of a 0.
Yeah. No. None of that shit even.
If you put a gun to my head, that's just
for me.
Republican Jesus gun.
For me, it's currently none of the arguments out there for God, would convince me because they just wouldn't. You know what I mean? Maybe some evil genius will be born that comes up with an argument so good no one can deny it. I don't know.
If God wants to argue with me, he can fucking show up and do it in person. Same way I feel about standing for truth.
Yep. He's all powerful. He should have the capability. Right?
Yep. I mean, it's like, what are the arguments? Creation requires a creator? Like, a painting needs a paint? Like, no, I'm not fucking convinced. If I was convinced, I wouldn't be a damn atheist.
Yeah. And for me, consciousness is what my biggest argument against God. So, anyway. Okay, moving on to the next question.
This is fun.
Most atheists I've met humbly admit that they don't think they can have absolute certainty about much of anything. But what they want from the Christian is a demonstration that God exists or that Christianity is true.
Here we go.
But when we offer the reasons to believe that we do have, those are typically deemed not good enough. So what sort of evidence, if any, would be enough to convince you? Do you know? And since it's often a conversation stopper, let's take experimental reproducibility off the table, since that's not even always necessary for science.
Okay, absolute miracle happening over and over again.
Yep.
Jesus saves, appearing in the stars suddenly rearranging themselves. I'm going to start paying attention. Then if Jesus shows up on my block, and he would have to have sheep. I think if he showed up with a flock of sheep behind him, I'd be like, okay, dude, let's talk. And if he did some miracles, if he changed my water into wine, that'd be kind of a shitty thing for him to do, seeing as how I'm an alcoholic. But maybe if he changed wine into water.
What if he changed wine into chocolate milk?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Get a little yoo-hoo out of it.
Yep. Okay. Alcohol-free chocolate milk.
Hold on. But what about his shit that he said that you can just get rid of repeatable experiments in science? That's not. You can't. He's just trying to do that to sneakily make his God claim easier to prove. But that's fundamental to the scientific method. You can't just table that,
Yeah, I think he has a very pop science understanding, like National Geographic level of how this stuff works. I can't think of a theory or hypothesis even that doesn't have some level of repeatability and experimental value. You know, even the most weird quantum level stuff still has something that says will happen, and they still have experiments they can make to try to prove that. That's the Large Hadron Collider. So,
I don't know.
I'll be back in a minute, guys.
Okay, you're gonna miss a question. Are you ready for that?
Okay, one more question. I just hurry.
Okay.
Yeah, question 10 is bullshit, so just watch this one.
To what extent did social and moral issues start you down the path toward your atheism? That is to say, the typical Christian or religious views on sexuality, gender, rights, and acts and commands of God in the Old Testament. It seems that many deconversion stories online begin with, or at least include, LGBT issues, purity culture, or hell as instrumental in the deconversion process. It strikes me that what should matter most is the truth and not what we might prefer that the truth were. I honestly wonder how much those issues and ones like them motivate the deconversion rather than all this talk about evidence.
That had nothing to do with my deconversion. I'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah, like
had nothing to do with mine.
Same. But I just love a Christian talking about people talking about what they want the truth to be. Like, that's rich.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but is he trying? Was he trying to ask that? Oh, you became an atheist because of emotional issues. Not emotional issues. Did you become an atheist because of emotional issues rather than evidence?
He's saying that people had a negative reaction to hell in the Old Testament, or the treatment of maybe women,
right,
or moral issues, and I don't see a problem with that. Like, I think there's no wrong way to come to atheism, and a lot of people become atheists because they read the Bible and the acts of God in the Old Testament.
Right.
Sour a lot of people.
But the point he's trying to make, at least I think, is that the only reason you became an atheist is because of these social issues, which are emotional. It wasn't a rational reason.
Yeah, he's trying to invalidate, but I think those reasons are totally valid.
Yeah. Well, the hell thing is one reason that turned away from Christianity. Not just hell, but the whole idea that somehow we're made of sin and flesh is lust and all of this bullshit. This entire turning away from life and turning away from having a positive attitude about life is just in Christianity is just infested with this darkness. And when you think about where it came up, basically, where it started, you can understand why these people had sort of a dark view about life, right? Because their lives were shit back then, as far as I know. But our lives aren't shit now. Like, why would we turn against everything that is life in favor of this idea that if we do anything wrong, we're going to hell, or our children are going to go to hell, or people that we love are going to go to hell? Who the hell wants that kind of thinking in their lives? I can see why people would turn away because of these things. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's also the reasons why people become Christians in the first place. Like, there are many times have you heard stories of, well, I used to be an atheist, but Pascal's wager converted me, or the Kalam controversial argument converted me, or let's see what else. Aquinas's first cause.
I used to be a crack whore, and then I found Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. I do want to talk to Amy Newman about that whole thing.
About being a crack whore?
No, about basically hitting your bottom. We were going to talk about alcoholism and this whole interrelationship between alcoholism and the God part of the program, that sort of thing.
Well, she's going to be the next person I interview on my channel. So, maybe
cool.
If you want me to ask questions about that, I definitely can.
No, we're supposed to do a special. Her and I are going to talk about AA and the 12 steps and God in the 12 steps, because that is related to these deconversion stories where people, they're drug addicts and they hit their bottom or they're, you know, like in the case of I won't mention his name, becoming a porno addict and then hitting your bottom and then coming out and becoming a Christian. These deconversion stories are very much a part of human nature, or these conversion stories where they basically come to a religion based on having crashed 100 miles an hour into the bottom, into the pits of your life, and then all of a sudden somebody offers them some sort of religious belief and they have this transformation. That transformation is very much a part of our psychology, and that's what I want to talk to Amy about. So anyway,
we know from neuroscience that by studying the brain that when you're having a sort of religious or faith-based experience, it lights up the exact same centers of your brain that light up when you're doing drugs. You know, so that's kind of why some people trade one for the other.
Yep. Well, some drugs, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the 10-year-old in me kept kind of giggling whenever you kept saying "hit your bottom."
Yeah, me too.
But I didn't want to bring it up in the middle of what you were talking about because it was so serious.
You guys are so weird.
Like this?
I am. I am the weirdest.
You know something? My mind didn't go there ever, not once, not until just this special moment.
I'll see if I can find a therapist to treat that.
Okay.
I mean, I know a good sick. Never mind. Go ahead.
I just got to find a way to kill my inner 10-year-old.
Over the course of my alcoholism, I've heard the phrase "hit your bottom" probably over 1,000 times, and I never once thought what you just thought. Not once. Thank you for that.
I'm ashamed of myself as an adult.
Now I can't unthink it.
I hit bottom and then I became a bottom.
Okay.
There you go.
So we got one question left, and then we can get rid of this.
Yep.
Can you name the last 3 academic books you read by theists on the subject? How long ago did you read them? Or is most of your understanding of apologetics and atheism from non-scholarly internet sources, pop-level books, and, let's face it, YouTube videos? And be honest with yourself about this. Anyone can Google up a list of books and paste them in the comments section. But I want to know, are you getting the best from the other side?
Okay, we're done with them.
On the other side, why?
I mean, isn't there one more question? Yeah, isn't there one more question?
Is there one more, AJ?
Yeah, there's one more question. I think you should play it because it's so stupid.
Well, do you want to answer this one, or?
Well,
there's no point. What's the point of answering this question?
Well, the answer I gave is that why are you giving books as your standard of the best part of the other side? I said, talk to me when creationists start publishing peer-reviewed scientific papers in respected journals instead of writing books, because Standing for Truth wrote a book. So
yeah. Yep.
I know personally, I can list off creationist articles I've read for geology-related things. That doesn't make their arguments any better.
My reply would be: Have you read On the Origin of Species? You know, to that guy, I would ask him that. You know,
and actually, I do have books that I have read most of.
You mean a book?
Yeah. And one of them is by, I think his name is Moreland or something. It's Body and Soul or something like that. So yeah, I think supposedly he's the best they have to offer. He's a philosopher, and he wrote a whole book on consciousness and the body and soul and stuff. So yeah, I have read the books. Not impressed. They were pretty shitty.
Yeah, you can get some great information from YouTube videos, like our friend Gutsick Gibbon has some amazing information on her videos.
Yep. Okay, we ready for number 10?
Oh yeah, it's a doozy.
Let's finish with a pretty common one. If you found out today, to your satisfaction, that Christianity were true, would you accept God's authority, repent of your sins, and trust Jesus as your king?
No.
No.
Hey AJ, I'm gonna need you to pay for my therapy bill because this thing gave me brain cancer.
I apologize.
I mean, I guess
as your king.
If somehow something came along that did such a good job of convincing me right then and there, I imagine I would be convinced, yes. But that's not an argument. That's not a convincing argument. Like that's.
I mean,
I'm
going to be honest.
If you salt and pepper your food, it tastes better. That doesn't mean anything about salt and pepper. It's.
I wouldn't worship him.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't think nothing would convince me, because there's always an explanation to whatever is happening.
It's always one more book, one more excuse.
I mean, I could go into Star Trek, but what's the point?
Okay, if I found out today that Christianity were true, why would I not accept God's authority, repent my sins, and trust Jesus?
As your king, don't forget the last part.
Well, yeah, I guess so. But I mean, if I found out it was true, I think it'd be kind of fun.
I mean, the only king in this.
What does Christianity is true mean? I mean, that's smuggling in a whole lot of things. Does that mean every single thing in the Bible is true? Does that mean just resurrection?
Exactly. I think that's what it's implying.
That's a lot of stuff, and how are you going to prove all that is true?
Did we lose Orge? God damn it!
Yes.
What did we lose him to?
By the way, I like to point out that the only king in this room is me.
Are you guys still here?
Yes.
Why can't I hear you?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Orge is back.
I can hear you now. Orge.
My bad. Close the tab. My bad.
Okay. Anyway, my monitor was muted, so I was talking into empty space, and it was frightening.
It was wonderful.
You mean like atoms? Atoms are empty space.
For a while I saw Jesus.
I'm Jesus Christ.
That happens to me often. So anyway, I wanted to talk about this. The Himalayas. So George Bond did a calculation. The Himalayas are apparently every million years they would get 10 kilometers higher according to the current amount that they're rising up. Do you know anything about all of that?
I haven't seen the video, so I don't know where he got his calculation from. You can measure that stuff. I think I know what he's trying to do here, but you can measure that stuff, yes.
Yeah, I found a site that says basically every million years, at the rate they're currently going, they would be 10 kilometers higher every million years. So So when a mountain range forms, what stops it from? What is the rate of it forming, and basically what stops it from getting higher and higher and higher?
Yeah. So mountain forming, the geologic term is an orogeny, or an orogenic event. And essentially it is the result of plates crashing into each other and piling up on top of one another. That's what pushes mountains up. There's a little bit of subduction, upwelling, stuff like that as well. But the Himalayas is a continent-on-continent collision. So India's smashing into Eurasia and driving things up.
But wouldn't it eventually just create another ripple or mountain range instead of pushing that one up and up and up?
Well, at this point, you have to get deep into the structural geology of it to see exactly what's happening and where it's happening. This stuff is all live, right? This stuff is all happening in real time. And to an extent, more things are going to ripple, but the previous ripples, as you said, would still be affected. Sometimes they fall over. You have overturned folds and stuff like that. But it all varies. So...
Yeah, so we got a question from Chris Peacock. Can the weight of a mountain affect how high it can get? I think eventually there's a depression. Isn't there a depression under the Himalayas?
What you're referring to is what's called isostasy. And that essentially is, so the continents are, it's a bad analogy, but the continents are floating on the mantle. And as the continent gets deeper, it falls deeper into the mantle, makes a depression. Okay. So, like the mantle, the crust is not just this flat surface. The crust kind of mirrors the surface a bit on the bottom.
Yep. Okay.
So, as the mountain rises up, the entire crust that the mountain is sitting on is sinking down.
Yeah. So that would probably explain George Bond's. He did a back of the envelope calculation and said it should be 160 miles high or something like that, or kilometers.
So what I think he did is he did the same thing that they screw up with magnetic field, where they take like a measurement, because I found something about 6.1 centimeters per year. So if you add a bunch of zeros to that for a million years, then there you go, right? But you're kind of taking the graph and you're looking at this little teeny section of the graph and somehow extrapolating that out for every possible thing that could happen to the graph. Like if you look at, game stocks in January and it's shooting through the roof, that doesn't mean GameStop is going to have gigantic numbers now, right? These things are affected by multiple sources, and you can't simplify something as complicated as mountain building into, as you said, a back of envelope conversation. That's reducing the science that tens of thousands of people have spent their lives studying down to an addition problem.
Yep.
So in the original question, was it the Himalaya mountain range or was it a particular mountain?
He's probably getting Mount Everest because that's the one that's easiest to measure.
Okay, because they're not all the same height. So
no, of course not. And also, Mount Everest is growing. This was I'm reading on a website here where you probably got this number, and they use essentially GPS to calculate this stuff. That doesn't mean that it's growing constantly at that rate, or that the erosion factor has been that slow. Like these things change year to year. It's all this stuff is always changing, always evolving. It's not a simple multiply two numbers together, therefore God situation. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Easy for George. It's easy for George to do that, though.
Yeah, because the guy gets all his geology information from the streams that he participates in, or he considers himself an expert.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think he's like an engineer or something like that. And it's, something, dude, but you can't say that you can't tangle with people who spend their years. People have been studying the Himalayas since geology's existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember that standing for truth. I don't know, Rob Matt said that if the continents weren't moving at like 45 miles an hour, there's no way it could have pushed a mountain up, because there wouldn't be enough momentum to push the mountain up.
Yeah. Again, what is momentum is not speed.
Yeah.
Right? A dump truck moving at a foot an hour has a whole lot more momentum than a bee flying at 20 feet an hour.
Well, Ramat doesn't understand that at all. He thinks that there's no way that the mountain could have formed unless it was going really fast. So,
yeah, that's why I like the edited videos, because there's so much stuff that I need to look up to explain correctly, and it's hard to respond to 50,000 claims that you can't back up, but somehow I need to back them up thoroughly.
Yeah.
Here's
the part right here. So a growth rate of 10 kilometers, if we extrapolated the rate today, or that we've measured recently, right, in this little slice of time, a growth rate of 10 kilometers in a million years. But I'm pretty sure there are some limiting factors to that. For one thing, how much would it erode in a million years?
Yeah. Well, the top of Mount Everest is, I believe, a nodule form of limestone, which is comes from the fact that before India smashed into it, you had a shallow sea and a limestone accretion. But only the top of Everest has that limestone. So all the other Himalayan mountains, that limestone's all eroded away. Everest is just that big because it's reached high enough that the erosion rates have slowed down a bit. That's a factor that needs to be played into this conversation, and that's stuff that they probably don't even know. When I did my clams on Everest response video to Matt Powell, I brought up this stuff, and Matt Powell just kept saying sedimentary rock, like every single sediment is the exact same thing.
Here he be.
We should ask him if he took into calculation all the dead bodies on Everest. It's kind of weighing it down so it can't grow that fast. I don't think he'd put that in his calculation. A lot of dead bodies up there.
He's showing us diagrams. And what else does he show here? I'm waiting for him to get the Play-Doh out. He gets the Play-Doh out a couple times here. I can't remember. Yeah, anyway, this whole video, I thought it would be a pretty rich video for you to look at, but maybe I could timestamp it for you and come up with some goodies.
That would be better, right? I don't want to have to debunk a 2-hour-long video. That takes me 10 hours.
Yeah.
You know, and so much of this stuff is either basic geology or not related to the topic. I've watched a few of McQueen's conversations here. He doesn't do a bad job sometimes, but yeah, I don't want to have to stretch through 2 hours of my day.
Here he is. Here's his Play-Doh. There you go. And then the next thing he does is he gets his cracker. I think he's got his. Oh no, that's a rock. Somewhere along the line, he gets a cracker out and he crunches it. And yeah, right there, I think he crunches a cracker, and that's supposed to show you that rocks couldn't possibly fold.
So I remember talking to George Bond about this very subject, and evidence for the fact that rocks can be malleable, I said, was if you have a poured concrete floor in your garage and you put like a real heavy table on it, over time, the table legs are going to press down the concrete and you have little divots in your concrete floor. Yep. That's because over time, the weight of the table depresses down the rock. Everything is malleable to a certain extent. Sometimes you need more time and less force to get it done. And then I got an argument that, like, that's false. I'm like, every concrete floor in the world has these depression marks on it. Go to a garage. The wheels for the carts, the shop carts have these depressions from when they move.
Yeah, and I've got a couple of books on structural geology that talk about the malleability at certain pressures and temperatures. There's like a graph where it becomes really plastic. But I mean, plastic over how much time is the other thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Because you could bend anything if you bend it slowly enough, I think, without cracking it. Because you're going to... What?
Human blood and oil. That still messes me up. Not messes me out, but just really, I find that so bizarre that it defies logic. Oil and
what
blood.
Is that one?
Snake
blood
really...
and oil.
Yeah, that's a weird claim. I agree, Erica. But Snake's comment is exactly right. You say mountains can't form slowly when we're actively watching mountains form slowly.
Right.
You know, all geology is actively happening right now. I say the way it's happening now is the way it happened back then because I have no reason not to believe that. But somehow,
if Everest is getting 10 centimeters a year higher, how come it's not cracking in half right now?
Right? Yeah. I mean, it seems like your own argument debunks your own argument.
Yeah.
But the amount of time, it's.
What I love is asking creationists how limestone forms.
Actually, I got to yell at Richard Madsen about that at some point because he's started to bring that up. So
they can't explain it in a 6,000-year-old time frame.
Yeah. Well, what did they say? There was like the flood washed a whole bunch of microorganisms into one spot, and they all fell down and they formed the White Cliffs of Dover or something like that. Or
I don't know, but like
chalk and limestone.
Ken Hovind still hasn't learned how one layer of sediment can be older than a different layer. He thinks they're all the same age, but he says, "Oh, where did these other layers come from? Outer space?"
Yeah,
no, limestone.
Yep, Erica has a video on limestone that was done like a week or two ago.
I saw that. Yeah,
Erica loves limestone.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, limestone has very specific depositional environment. We have active limestone development in the Caribbean right now. They're making limestone. You can go to limestone beaches right now and swim on them. We know how it's developed. Warm, calm waters, not a lot of activity, stuff like that. If you then have a layer that ends with limestone and starts with sandstone, Sandstone is not the same thing as limestone. How the hell does the flood decide to stop dropping limestone and start dropping sandstone? Like, it's this is not hydrologic sorting here. They're two different sediments, and then they both need to compact down.
I can help you out. It's madness, is what it is.
Bruh.
Yeah, basically.
Don't you agree that it's madness?
This is madness.
It's maddening to me having to try to explain
limestone.
So I got a rock.
I got a rock and roll.
I got a rock here. This is really light.
Well, we don't see. I don't see it.
Huh?
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Oh,
you're on the bottom. So, and you got David McQueen's pixely faces.
How did I end up on the bottom?
I mean, Scott, probably. I don't know.
It's like how the layers end up on the bottom because of tectonic plates shifting.
Okay, you see that?
Yeah.
Is that one of those shards that came out of a volcano that blew out of a volcano, or what is this? It's really light. It's it looks like it came out as liquid.
I think that's a dog turd.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's exactly what my son said.
Like the real thin part, can you move that around, or is that rock?
That is rock.
That's just pure rock?
Yep. It's harder
than
now.
It kind of looks like silver or copper or something like that at first glance.
It almost does, yeah. Like it almost looks like a native metal. Well, hang on a second. Let me just see if I can.
Oh, be careful.
Oh, it is metal.
Yep. All right.
Do you have a magnet?
So what the hell is this?
It's finger off.
You might have a big chunk of silver there, honestly.
What? What is that worth?
Do you have a magnet?
It's not magnetic. I'm pretty sure I had magnets somewhere, but no, this is not iron.
It's probably not silver because silver shows up more like gangly and all weird like that when it goes open. But
yeah, a rock will have veins of silver in it. I think
you're in Minnesota, right?
This isn't from Minnesota. A friend brought them back from like Colorado or something like that, and I got a whole bunch of weird rocks that pretty amazing rocks. This granite, I think this is granite with mica.
Oh, porphyritic, yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
large grain like that, yeah.
Yep, and tons of mica. It looks like there's little sheets and stuff.
Yeah,
and then I had them in a bunch of plants, and I put them in there to keep the cats from pooping in the plants. About 30 years ago, and I just took them out and started washing them. So
I don't know how to respond to that sentence. Yeah, I don't know what that is off the top of my head. You know, it's kind of hard to identify rocks through a stream. But
yeah, and I don't know. Some of these are just beautiful. I mean, you can't.
Yeah,
I mean, they're really cool.
Well, that's why I love teaching geology, because every time you go outside and find rocks, they're always cool, you know? And if you realize that, it's going to make every time you go outside so much more interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I wish I could identify rocks. You want to fly out here for a couple weeks and help me out?
It looks like you got a big sheet of mica there, actually.
Speed, you just read books.
Yeah, but God, there's so many books.
Yeah, that's the fun of it.
There's so little of me and so many books. You know.
You're like the guy at the Twilight
I could probably
Zone
try to dig
episode.
into. I could probably try to dig into this video at some point, but I really want to get my mud fossil series started. My mud thud series started soon because what's it? Creo Debunked is starting to fall down that rabbit hole. I need to catch him before he tumbles. So
yes, Speed, you need to show a Mud Fossil University video on this channel.
Mud Fossil University.
Oh, I got a playlist on my channel. Go check them out. It's terrible.
Bruh, it's incredible. Like he's talking about how these ramparts from an old castle. These are actually this is actually the spine of a dragon that was part of the the Earth.
Oh, that guy.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
John used to bring him up all the time. Remember, Speed? John Peterson brought him up all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Orge's channel, I'm going to link that in the description today. Again, I want to link Orge's channel.
Well, maybe one of these days you'll get me a subscriber. Who knows?
Yeah. So it's in the description. A lot of good stuff out there. A lot of debunking on Matt Paul. A little bit of debunking on Matt Paul.
Oh, can I just say that my debate with Kent Hovind on my channel passed 666 views today? I'm very proud of that.
Oh, cool. Congrats. What the hell did I figure out the other day? It was okay. The amount of
your channel got 420 subs.
The amount of mutations, basically, the amount of mutations that are non-conserved, I think in some genome, I thought it might have been humans, I'm not sure, divided by the number of conserved mutations, works out to 666. 666 times. And I was just thrilled. It's like, it can't get any better than that. That's pretty cool.
Hey, I got to get going soon, so if there's any other stuff for me, let me know. But
it would not be covered. It would be there for Satan.
But have you ever thought about doing any more like really more like try to explain more technically about the deformation of rocks, limestone deposits, and things like that? If you want to do stuff like that, I would love to get into that a little more. Get into the mechanics of it a little more.
I've been thinking about making a channel exclusively about limestone, bro.
Oh, wow. Limestone. Yeah. We need that. Hi, Randolph. You've been pretty quiet. He's really quiet.
It's always the quiet ones.
He's muted.
Well, I heard earlier they were talking about atheism and they've moved on to rocks, so I'm just kind of listening.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, we can go back talking about atheism. I think we're done. Okay. I think we're done with rocks for the day.
No. Rocks are fine. Rocks are good. It's quite interesting what you're saying here. And what I think was David or somebody was saying about cement. You get these little impressions from things standing on the cement for a long time if they're heavy. And yeah, I've seen that too. Yep.
Okay, so Dr. Bruce Damer just released a video just now.
Erica just said that Maddox is doing a debate tonight on ID. What channel is that? ID?
Modern Day Debate.
Oh boy,
but she
more
put
Maddox.
ID though, right? Is that
Intelligent Design? Yeah.
Who's he debating with?
AST.
Oh, okay. I see what. Okay, yeah.
Is he going to get pedantic at the beginning about definitions again?
Yeah, I see you've heard Maddox debate before. Yes.
Oh, I debated with him once, and we were debating what was it? It wasn't the definition of anything, and then he spent the first 30 minutes or so talking about the definition of atheism. 5 minutes should be more than enough time for that, but nope. He went through and put all these whacked out arguments on. He even claimed that the Royal Society looked at one of my websites and basically reviewed it, and I've not been able to find evidence of that. I would love to find out what the Royal Society says about something I wrote. That would be pretty awesome. But no, I just can't find any evidence of it. So, yeah. And then I later did ask him about it just a few weeks ago. I managed to be in a stream where he was there, so I asked him, and he said, "Oh, go look in the debate. It's referenced in there." He just mentioned it. He didn't actually cite it properly. So I'm a little disappointed that something I wrote didn't actually get peer reviewed by the Royal Society, because that would be pretty awesome.
Are we going to resume this shit show momentarily?
What's that?
Are we going to resume our shit show momentarily?
Oh, I'm going to head out, actually. I'm going to take this opportunity. I got to go do parent things, so.
Do you want to see Bruce Damer's 20-second video first?
Yeah, I can wait.
Sure.
Fine.
Oh. Should be interesting.
It's a movie of, okay, this is from Dr. Bruce Damer, who was on our channel.
Okay.
And there's no audio, I don't think, but, oh, maybe there is audio. But anyway, it's a volcanic hot spring. Guys are feeding a pool on an Archean island. That's pretty. He's out there doing research on this stuff.
That was a nice looking animation, actually.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Anyway.
Looked pretty muddy there, though.
You're dismissed, David.
All right, I'm going to take off too. Take care.
Okay. Okay. What shit show you want to resume? The cult of science?
Yeah, the consensus thing that you opened up the show completely misrepresenting me about.
Oh. Well, misrepresenting is what we do here. Misrepresentations are right.
Well, you're in a friendly place.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the next few minutes.
Well, if you got the nerve to come here, you're gonna get fucking misrepresented. You know that, right? But
I didn't until the beginning of the show.
Oh my god!
Oh, please elaborate.
Keeps things interesting.
Well, I would love to actually, because Atheist Junior, your response is absolutely—it's not even a response. You're basically saying, "Oh, your example tugs at my emotive heartstrings, so therefore it can't be legitimate." Ignoring the fact that I actually gave like 10 different examples in the comment section where we were talking, and I gave 2 examples in the initial show. And then furthermore, besides that, just because it tugs at your heartstrings doesn't mean that it's not a legitimate example. You would actually have to show why the example is wrong.
Yeah, which I did yesterday. The example's wrong because they didn't get the science wrong.
So the first thing is that when you talk about that, right? My claim was that the consensus was wrong about an issue. You're saying, well, they didn't actually get the science wrong. They just came up with a social policy that was wrong. Nevertheless, the consensus was wrong on that issue about eugenics. So you can say that they started to understand, transmission genetics and how it works and things like that, and that wasn't wrong. But the conclusions they drew about what we should do about that was in fact wrong. They do the same thing today with climate science, for example. I mean, like you would say that they're saying that because we have a warming trend that is dangerous to the ecosystem, that we should adopt a certain social policy of turning away from fossil fuels. That is the consensus position based on an approach to science. They did the same thing with eugenics. It's just that in the case of eugenics, they were dead wrong. That was my point. So you can.
Why were they dead wrong?
They were dead wrong because it is not a good idea to go about state sponsorship of who gets to reproduce and with whom. That's a disgusting policy.
And that was a scientific question as to why they should not do that?
That was a consensus of scientists in the early 20th century that we should pursue state-sponsored eugenics upon the basis of what they were discovering about transmission genetics.
So the scientists told us what the scientists told us. It wasn't
simply Nazi scientists. It was it was the United States. It was Russia. It was all sorts of areas in Europe. This thing touched 3 continents. If you were actually listening to the conversation, you would have picked that up. Furthermore,
the scientists were running the government, and the scientists were doing science to determine a ethical and moral position, is what you're claiming.
They came up with a social policy that was part of their consensus view of what they should pursue, and it started to get implemented into the government. There was a Supreme Court decision about that. I think I read
and they discovered this in the laboratory. They discovered that we were supposed to start killing people and preventing people from having kids in the laboratory. They discovered it there.
Did they discover that we should move away from fossil fuels in the laboratory? Or is that an extrapolation that they drew upon the basis of the data?
It's probably an extrapolation that they drew upon the basis of the data.
And that's the consensus position today, is it not?
Okay, but is the consensus position something that we should distrust? In either case, should we distrust genetics?
Whether or not you should distrust the consensus position will come down to many different factors. One of them has to do with how emotionally charged the issue is. So if something is extremely emotional to the people involved, you can't simply trust the consensus on that matter. You have to actually dig in to see whether or not their reasoning and their arguments and their evidence is persuasive, because bias plays in. It's the Smithsonian Magazine article that I linked you to opens up with that very point about how how scientists are human just like everybody else. So when it comes to an issue like eugenics that is highly emotionally charged and centered around racism, that you can't simply say, oh, well, the majority of people in this field agree with this. Well, they may agree with it because of the data, or they may agree with it for another reason, such as inherent bias.
So, okay, the question originally was, should we trust evolution or not?
Hey, real quick, Speed.
Yeah.
Did you put all his Dessel's links in the description yesterday?
It was yesterday or the day before, whenever.
Okay. Because I got a few of his papers, but not all of them. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet.
Maybe I missed them yesterday. Let me check. Make sure I got them. The day before, I linked that original paper, I think. But what I'm trying to.
One of those cases where this whole issue is gonna lose steam before I have a chance to read everything.
Yeah, probably. As usual.
You're asking.
The weather report yesterday. Okay, let me take a look at it. See if I got it in the papers.
You're asking if we should trust evolution. I think we don't have a choice. It's just part of reality.
No. Do you still have the links? Because I did not put them in yesterday's description. And
I can also go back and find them, because I posted them all, I also posted them in the live chat. So basically, if we go back to yesterday, and anybody looks into the live chat stream, they'll find like a bunch of different articles to Smithsonian Magazine, Real Clear Science, and other sources. But besides that, there were also the peer-reviewed sources that I shared, based on looking at the early 20th century eugenics movement in the United States. And then there was another article about it in Germany and Russia. And that second article about Germany and Russia was prior to the Nazi era. So still Atheist Juniors concerns here are completely irrelevant about it just being Nazis.
They were still sterilizing people in the U.S. up into the 50s, weren't they?
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Scott.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of mealy mouthed today. Weren't they still sterilizing people in the U.S. up? I want to say through the 50s, but it might have been
even in the 70s. The government was infecting people with syphilis.
Yeah, that's right, in the 70s. But anyway, my point again was they didn't get any of the science wrong in any case. So it was okay. Hang on a second. No, let's try to separate these concerns. You're not telling me that scientists were running the world. Okay, you're telling me that people that were running the world basically saw this science and they decided to do something in terms of a social program. Those are separate things from the science.
No, hold on.
When it comes to the science of evolution, is evolution true or not? Okay, what exactly does what kind of we could apply eugenics today based on evolution, and we could say, oh, let's not trust the science of evolution because eugenics might happen. Those are two separate things.
They are two separate things. I wouldn't make that argument. I wouldn't make that argument. I would agree with you that those are two separate things. What you're glossing over there in your original thing, though, is like you were saying, and people chose to what people? It was scientists who were part of that. The scientists themselves who were doing the research, they came to that erroneous social policy upon the basis of the science that they were following. And if you really want to stick by this argument that you're making a distinction between the social policy that the scientists encourage upon the society as a result of the science that they're studying and saying that doesn't count, then I'm happy to grant you that, even though I think it's totally bogus. And we can move on to all of the other examples that I gave that deal exactly specifically with the science, such as, for example, when Einstein bucked absolute space-time from Newtonian mechanics, or for example, behaviorism as it applies to language acquisition in the early 20th century, or the idea of verificationism in philosophy, or the idea of justified true belief as a total account of knowledge in epistemology. There are countless examples that I gave in that thread that deal specifically with the science and don't complain about a social policy that was adopted as a result of science by scientists.
Who enforces social policies?
Before you
Go ahead.
answer that, let me respond to what you said. And yesterday in chat, I said you finally came up with some better examples, and I thank you for that. Okay, so those are better examples. Yes. Okay, the consensus has been wrong in the past. We know that. So let's look at evolution today and try to make a decision about whether the average man should trust the fact that 99% of biologists believe evolution and 1% doesn't. What should they do? What should the average man do?
The average man, what they should do, in my personal opinion, is it depends on how much they really want to discover the truth about something.
How many hours they're working a day?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How many hours they're working a day and what they're, what should the average person do? Okay, let's look at climate science.
Hold on one second there, because you're giving that argument again, and that's a terrible argument, because it all comes down to you have to make an economic decision. If you care about the truth of something, then you have to do all the things that are necessary in order to genuinely develop an epistemic justification for believing in your conclusion. That may entail giving up certain things that you do in your day-to-day life, such as with your previous example about watching Breaking Bad. You might have to give up on some Breaking Bad episodes if you're interested in discovering the truth about something, because you're going to have to spend extra time reading articles, assessing data, going through the actual literature to see how strong a case actually is. So if an average person is interested in the truth, they may have to skip out on some Walter White in order to accomplish their goal.
Okay, so you get a diagnosis that you have a tumor on your lungs, and you have 3 doctors or 5 doctors are telling you that you need to get radiation or an operation or chemotherapy or whatever, and you have 1 doctor that's telling you that you should use crack instead to cure your cancer. You should snort crack. That'll cure your cancer. Are you going to go with the consensus?
Yep.
Okay. Why?
Because
wait a minute. Are you going to get a medical degree first?
You don't need a medical degree in order to determine that, because your second part of that example about smoking crack in order to help you out, I think the average person already understands that smoking crack, they don't need a medical degree in order to figure out that that's not going to help their problem. In addition to that, the consensus can actually show them all of the different tests that they've conducted, and show that to the person and says, here, look, this is the actual tumor. We can see it here. And you take a look and you can see that that's what's going on. You might choose, based on what's going on, because you may have a certain critical evaluation of maybe chemotherapy or something like that. And you can look into that further to see whether or not the doctors who are encouraging you to pursue that course are right in doing that. And if you want to take that upon yourself, you can. It's just that you will have a lot of work cut out for you in that, because there's a lot of research involved.
Yeah, when you're coughing up a lung, it's kind of hard to do that work. But anyway,
can we go back to the question before this? Let's say the guy stops watching Breaking Bad. How does he discover the truth about evolution?
Yeah.
The way that he'll discover the truth is going to be the following way. You start diving into the literature. You see a bunch of different
literature written by scientists, and they're dirty.
Yes, the literature written by scientists. The question is not whether or not you can trust science as a method. The question is whether or not you can always trust the consensus of the vast majority of scientists in a field. And my point about that is that you can't always trust that, because there are emotional issues involved on certain topics.
We didn't say always. We said it's more likely.
The last few days, I have had enormous pushback from people as if every single example that I give about a consensus being wrong about a particular issue is somehow problematic. The inference being that you guys want to treat the consensus as some kind of priesthood, and the consensus is this infallible means to discovering truth. It is not.
Priesthood.
Actually, I have no problem with that, because there are examples of the consensus being wrong and bad things happening. Did you, while you were researching this, Dessel, come across a book called Pandora's Lab: 7 Stories of Science Gone Wrong?
No, that sounds interesting. I see that you've posted it here in the private.
It's in the private chat and the side chat. I'm going to try to get to that book eventually after reading your articles, but I thought that might be an interesting study as well.
Yeah, so I mean, the real point that I'm trying to get at here is that if you're really trying to understand something, if you really want to get at the truth, popularity contests aren't going to do that for you. You don't actually get understanding. You might be able to, depending on whether or not it's an unemotional issue. You were talking about speed the other day, chemistry and the elements and things like that. That is a totally unemotional issue. No, it's not going to shatter anybody's worldview. What elements
evolution is an emotional issue?
What's that?
Evolution is an emotional issue
of an argument.
I would definitely say that that evolution counts as an issue that is at least somewhat emotional, because there are various people for whom evolution is a triggering topic. So you would expect that in those situations you might encounter bias rather than objectivity in the way that people are handling things.
So these people are going out and buying Standing for Truth's book and Rob Matt's book, and they're buying Jensen's books, and they bought like 25 books. Are they doing the right thing to find the truth?
By buying his books?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that if you're interested in learning about evolution and finding out whether or not it's really true, part of the project is taking a look at both the defenders and the detractors. So you would have to look to see what the alternative opposing case is before you could really come to a firm conclusion.
I've got a question here.
Yeah, so do I, but all right, go ahead.
Detractors, what are their credentials? What awards have they earned? Like,
hold on, Randolph. Those things should not matter at all, right? It shouldn't matter what they say. Whatever. Hold on. They don't matter, and I'll explain why they don't matter. Because
yes and no. I partly agree already with. But go ahead.
Forget it. Yeah. Never mind. Ask your question.
Oh no, I'm curious. Like, these people who are detractors of evolution, like, throughout time, there's been a lot of people trying to detract it, and they're not, as far as I understand, they're not actually able to demonstrate that evolution is a problem. There's been corrections made as better understanding comes along, and that's always on the scientific track. And there's people like, if somebody could actually overturn evolution and show the whole thing doesn't work, like these detractors that you're talking about seem to be presenting that idea, then, for them, it should be a slam dunk for them to win a Nobel Prize for that. Because if you can show that evolution is actually completely wrong, that's going to make vast changes to science, and we're going to have amazing progress. I think if you could actually do it, you're going to get a lot of people would be very happy about that. Heck, even rich creationism organizations would probably be willing to put a lot of money into that kind of research because it'll help their cause. And I'm not seeing that happen either. So I'm very suspicious of this claim. I'd like to hear what Miriam was trying to say earlier, though. I'm sorry, we started talking at the same time.
Sorry. It's you know what? Just if it makes it easier, you can just call me the Ant King, because I had to change a few things. I had to talk whatever. But what I was trying to say is that accolades or awards or whatever the fuck don't matter as much as the argument does. Like a doctor with like 50 PhDs, it's gonna get more attention. It's gonna get more attention. Once like if he writes a book on human evolution, versus standing for truth, but at the same but at the same time, like, what are the arguments being put forth by the guy with the PhD? You know what I mean? Because Fodor had a PhD, if I remember correctly, and he's a moron.
Yeah, sure. And Sanford and Behe and Meyer and Wells and some of these PhDs are in relevant fields. Some of them aren't. Meyer has a PhD in philosophy.
But here's the interesting thing, right? you don't always need an argue like a degree in the relevant field. Like, and I explain why, because people are gonna like.
And then I'm going to refute that, but very gently. Go ahead.
How are you gonna refute something if you don't?
It'll
hear
be a
what
partial
I say?
refutation with an example, but go ahead.
No, as
Okay,
I was trying.
I'll be very brief. If I need surgery, I want somebody who has the proper training, has the credentials to prove that they have.
You didn't, Randolph. I love you, but you didn't even let me make my case.
Okay, go ahead and make your case.
The case I was trying to make is that you can have somebody say, you can have somebody who's a plastic surgeon, but then become interested in psychology because he's noticed that because he's noticed that psychology applies to his field, and rather than being a moron and assuming he knows what the hell he's talking about, he goes to study it.
So, Midnight, can I ask a question of clarification there?
Yeah, I don't mean to sound like an asshole here. I'm just trying to get my words out.
I think Ant King, you and I mostly agree.
Yes, and that's the best kind of agreement. Mostly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andrew.
So in the example you're talking about, are these plastic surgeons, are they starting to do research in the field of psychology as well, or are they just studying it?
Well, they study it. They study the research. I read a book. I'm still reading it, called Psycho-Cybernetics. To where this plastic surgeon, while working on patients, he noticed that some patients, after they had surgery, were more confident, whereas others, after they had surgery, weren't. So that got into thinking, let's see, why they got to thinking, why is it that some people, after they got surgery, were more confident and happier, and others weren't? So asking this question, let him to study psychology. Now you could say, I don't know whether he actually got a degree in it or not, but you know what I mean. Let him study psychology. But here's the, you know what I mean. He didn't just write bullshit about psychology. He actually studied it to the point where he figured it out that that the way we view ourselves, our self-image, has to do more has to do with our self-confidence more than appearance. You know what I mean? Like if you look like Brad Pitt, but you see yourself as a Shrek, you know what I mean? You're gonna lack confidence.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make. You know what I mean? Like it's fine. It's fine talking about something quote unquote outside your field, but know what the fuck you're talking about.
This comment on the bottom, really quick. I know Randolph wants to respond, so I'm going to make this like 2 seconds. But Freethinker says scientists have never, or not, and will never take actions. They can only offer their opinion based on the data. But many times scientists are put into an official capacity. I mean, one of the examples that we have today dealing with the COVID response is Fauci. He's a scientist, and yet he is majorly in charge of coming up with a lot of the policies about how we're going to respond to the pandemic.
Yeah, and did I ever say that we shouldn't, when it comes to social programs or voting on things or government or what we do ethically, did I ever say that we should just listen to the scientists?
Well, when you're saying that we should blindly trust the consensus, that's what it would come down.
I didn't say blindly. I said we should trust the consensus. I didn't say blindly.
On the basis of what? Upon the basis of actually diving into the data, which is the whole point that I've been making for the last 3 days?
When it comes to auto mechanics for the new cars, I trust my mechanic. I don't go and read about the car. Okay. When it comes to doctors, I trust doctors. When it comes to the average man and evolution, you should go with the biologist.
So when it comes to that, though, again, Like, we're trying to come up with whether or not we're talking about the same thing. You're saying don't blindly trust the consensus or don't blindly trust the authority. If you're not blindly trusting them, you would be diving into the data and reading about it yourself.
No,
hold on.
There's a lot of room in between.
I think what Pete's trying to say, what I'm trying to say here is that we placed our trust in some, in some in some professionals, right? Like he gave the example of a car, of a mechanic, right? Now, from what I heard, mechanics will fuck you over, because they see you as somebody who doesn't who doesn't really know anything about cars, so they can get away with that. But that's besides the point. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's beside the point at all. I think that's very apropos.
What was that?
I think that is very relevant. That's the whole point that I was making about.
No, I know. I know that's the point you're making, but what I'm trying to say is that unfortunately, not everyone has the desire or time, to study, to study cars.
Right,
You know what I mean?
And that's why when I'm talking about this, I continually give the caveat that if your primary interest in this is discovering the truth, if you don't care so much about discovering the real truth about things, if because of practical reasons in your day-to-day life you just don't have that as a priority to dive into, then in many cases is perfectly fine and functional for you to go ahead and trust that authority. But if your concern is not to get screwed over and to really come to an understanding of what the truth is, that demands something on your part.
Now, what about the person? Okay, what about a person that, like you said, you should dive into the data and really analyze it yourself and come to your own conclusion. But there are many people out there that could dive into the data, look at it. They couldn't even read a scientific paper because they just don't have the IQ or the intelligence to read into the data and truly understand it and be able to come up with a decent conclusion for themselves. So a person like that, the best thing for them to do would be to trust the scientific census, because that's the best system we have.
Natty Boy too came up with a pretty brilliant comment that sort of settles this whole thing. There is no principle about when to adopt a consensus view, and I never said there was. I'm just saying that, when it comes to evolution, I think if I were not doing the work that I'm doing in evolutionary science, I would just trust the consensus. I would go with the consensus. I wouldn't blindly trust them. That's for damn sure.
Well, that is my main that's my main concern, is to make sure.
So we're probably in agreement.
Finally, I guess we are starting to reach some agreement. To David's point.
Well, okay, that's all. The only disagreement was in your brain, in your mind.
Not at all. No, you've been carrying on this disagreement with me for the last 3 days. Don't act like you've been agreeing with me the entire time now.
I've been fucking with
want to hear a
response.
I definitely want to hear a response.
Are you guys all good now? Can we, did you kiss and make up?
Nope, not kissing us, dude.
I want to hear a response.
I just want to say I feel guilty now for watching reruns of Columbo all week instead of reading papers.
You're just trusting those consensus blindly, Scott.
I guess so. I'm going to give up Columbo and I'm going to read this shit.
Anyway. No, your points are very good, Dessel. Very good.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. David, though, I wanted to respond to that, because that finally is actually a good point, which is, if you're a person who just doesn't have the capacity for whatever reason in terms of understanding the issue, then ultimately, you are going to have to trust a higher authority, because you yourself are incapable of coming to a sound conclusion about something.
And that would be the majority too.
Right, but
would you say that's the majority? I think that anybody with a functioning brain, as long as they applied themselves and did hard work, I think that most people could come to a legitimate understanding about a scientific topic. Again, it requires a lot of hard work. I'm not saying it doesn't.
But from my experience, there are a lot of people, who find certain topics boring. So they claim that it's boring. Other people find certain topics hard to get into. You know what I mean? It honestly depends, right? You know, I have a few friends who, you know, it's like some people don't like chemistry, other people don't like math. You know, though I do have one friend who likes a lot of subjects like I do. You know what I mean? He and I are big nerds, but you know what I mean? It's I don't know. I find the human experience very interesting to look into.
You know something, boys and girls? We never got to the consciousness part or the phosphorus at all, and we were supposed to.
Why don't we talk about zinc fingers?
Actually, I did not have that linked in the thing.
We can leave this topic now if you want. I said essentially what I wanted to say, and I don't see any serious pushback to what I'm saying now. So I mean, like, we can.
Well, what did you say? What did you say again?
What, me?
Yeah, no, I'm fucking with you. Go ahead.
All right.
It depends on how angry you still are at this dead horse.
So I was actually, because you guys started your show today just as I was waking up, because I had a lot of trouble falling asleep last night. So I literally woke up to Speed's comment about how I'm saying that we should never, ever, ever go with the consensus, that it's always wrong. And then Atheist Junior giving his bullshit a motive objection again. And that shit pissed me off. But then I got a phone call in the middle of that offering me a second job opportunity. So that kind of like alleviated my anger a little bit.
Well, not only that, but we were more effective than 2 cups of coffee at waking you up.
Yeah, right.
I'm still, yes, in some respect, but I have to tell you that I'm still friggin' foggy headed. Like an hour later, I'm still trying to wake up.
Yeah,
well, at least you were able to get your points across well this time, hopefully. By the way, by the way, I still want to have the Nietzsche talk with you. I just haven't gotten around to responding to the email that Speed put us in.
Well, today would actually be a really good day. So once this stream ends, if you want to, have it off the air, we can totally do that.
Yeah, we're going to end in about 10 minutes or 5 minutes. But let's see. So, okay, there were 3 topics. One was they found high amounts of phosphorus in carbonate lakes. There's a paper on that. I linked it in the description. We'll cover it tomorrow. There's another one on consciousness.
Oh my God, Standing! I love you. You see the chat. Sorry, I had to.
Why are you talking, Midnight? Why are you talking?
Because I can. I'll mute.
Are you sure? Okay. Anyway, that one, and then there was another thing. Otangelo put out an email based on our attack of John's semantic argument yesterday. So he put out like a joint email to about 50 people. And I don't know who all of you are in that email, but I thought we'd go over that a little bit. But Otangelo just basically said that we hand-waved his semantic argument, and then Otangelo proceeded to teach us high school biology for about 3 pages, I think, which is his typical response. It's a code. DNA is a code. It does this. It has semantic.
I mean, that's not really a high school biology if it gets it wrong.
Well, first year, something. I'm not sure. I haven't been to school in a while. Anyway, so we got those 3 things to cover tomorrow, I think. So
I just I wanted to say real quick, I apologize to anybody in the live chat if you had anything for me. I'm just not there. The only comments that I'll see toward me are the ones that Speed puts up on the screen.
Stripper? Is that what you were trying to say, stripper? Sorry.
I just wanted to apologize to anybody. If somebody has addressed something to me in the live chat that I haven't responded to, sorry, I just haven't seen it. That's all. If you want to get at me later about this, feel free to do so.
Okay. Yep. Nothing in the chat to look at there, Dessel.
Good.
Just ignore the chat. Okay.
Just ignore the chat. There you go.
Yeah. Ignore the chat. So should we shoot her in the head for the day?
I want to know.
I mean, if you want.
Who's Natty Boy 2?
Natty Boy 2, he's I don't know who he is. He's a new subscriber.
Yeah, he says he's not Danny. He put that in there, or whoever the person is. I don't know. He's saying hi to everybody, so I don't know.
Yeah, he's not Danny.
Yeah, I have no idea who he is.
But that sounds like something Danny would say.
Okay, I just inhaled my cat. Hang on a second.
And the funny thing is he tagged himself, and that's something Danny does all the time. So I'm kind of wondering about that.
I don't know. I don't think it's Danny. I don't know. Natty Boy? I mean, why would... I don't know.
I know. Think there's rational empiricist. They left the back room. Sorry.
I just want to say nobody should ever snort cat.
Yep.
Yeah, they showed that on South Park.
Come on, man. Live a little.
They did that on South Park. It didn't go well for anybody.
I know. God. It's really bad.
I like Leo's comment. That's a good one.
What was Leo's comment?
Who doesn't like inhaling some good pussy?
I'm gonna time him out.
Is that why he comes across as so excited all the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. I don't know, but
yeah, we better shoot at speed.
Nothing good is going to come of this stream. We're going to end it. So, anybody have anything they would like to say?
Mazel tov.
I'm the Ant King. I don't know.
Happy Pride Month.
Yep.
Sure.
Goodbye, cruel world.